at number 1. Rams and Eagles tied for second, followed by the Saints, Patriots, Steelers, Falcons, Jags, Packers, and Chargers. Guys, before we answer this question really quick, I want to get into the order with you. I'll start with you, Stephen A. I just want to give a quick shout out. It is our friend and our producer. It's his birthday, Brian Bork, his wife's birthday, Katie, and his mom's birthday, Karen. So happy birthday to all of them. Isn't that incredible?
I have a comment.
Okay.
I have a comment. First of all, I want to say happy birthday to all three. But I do want to extend my condolences to Brian Bork, one of our producers here.
Why?
And here's why, Max and Molly. If you have the same birthday as your wife and your mama, you don't matter.
True.
You don't matter.
True story.
Well, I mean, think about that. He doesn't come before them.
No.
He doesn't come before them. I mean, the wifey and mama. I mean, his birthday just comes and goes. You just got older. That's all. They're the ones being celebrated.
True.
You just got older.
Yeah, it's like the kids who have the same birthday as Christmas.
It's your birthday.
Yeah.
Think of the work you have on your birthday. Your wife and your mother.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. No wonder why Brian needs all the love from us. You understand what I'm saying?
All right, you guys.
He got to give it out. He can't give it. He got to give it.
Let's go back to football here. So I told you Vikings at 1, Rams and Eagles tied for second, followed by the Saints, Patriots, Steelers, Falcons, Jags, Packers, and Chargers. Stephen A., Vikings at 1. Do you agree with this order?
Hell no. Not at all. Their defense is big time. I got it. But in the same breath, this notion that Kirk Cousins is some significant upgrade remains to be seen. I know he's got $84 million in guaranteed dollars. I can respect it and what have you. He's no scrub. But what big moments has Kirk Cousins produced in? It remains to be seen. I'm not sold. So him being number 1, particularly being in the same division as that bad man Aaron Rodgers, I'm sorry. I got to wait and see. That's number 1. Number 2. The Eagles are the reigning defending Super Bowl champions. I suspect Carson Wentz will be back. If not week 1, definitely by week 3 or the first month of the season. And obviously he's considered better than Nick Foles. We got to put the Eagles up there. Look at the Rams with Aqib Talib and Marcus Peters in the secondary. With Ndamukong Suh joining Aaron Donald, who I believe will return. You got to look at the Los Angeles Rams having an upgrade in their on the defensive side of the ball. Not to mention that Jared Goff is no longer considered a bust or a scrub. Todd Gurley was an MVP candidate who has now gotten his money. The Rams are no joke either. And obviously, I would also put the Patriots ahead of the Vikings. Why? Because not only are they the reigning AFC champions, but they're in the AFC East. So by virtue of their division alone, they're going to win the division. They're going to be a top 2 seed in the AFC, which means that they only have one game to worry about, which is an AFC championship game, because we all know that they're going to at least get there by virtue of their schedule alone. So the way I look at it, those 4 teams alone easily have the edge over the Minnesota Vikings.
Well, the Vikings should not be 1. I mean, I agree that the idea that Kirk Cousins gives you some kind of premium over what Case Keenum gave you last year is, I'd like to see it. You know, I saw a guy go out there and win a playoff game on a miracle throw and generally play well all season, was among the kind of MVP, maybe just outside the MVP conversation. That wasn't Kirk Cousins. But there has been a long-held belief among some in the NFL that Kirk Cousins in the right situation could really make a difference. You know, it seems to me that Cousins is the kind of guy who won't hold back a good team, but I don't see him making a bad team good or a good team better. But that's apparently what some of these people do feel, whose opinions were weighed in this ranking. So that's 1. I think the Vikings are too high. Clearly, the Eagles are too low. Even though, like, Wentz's recovery is ahead of schedule, yes. But even if it's not, the Super Bowl MVP is on the roster. I mean, you just won a Super Bowl with that guy. You're the best team in football, the Eagles were. And also, I think the Falcons are way too low. The Falcons got a playmaking defense. They got a good quarterback. They got a 2-headed monster at running back. The Falcons are a talented team who maybe you could argue should have advanced in the playoffs last year, you know, against the eventual Super Bowl champions. So I think the Falcons certainly would be the team that I look at and go, they are pegged too low. And we agree about the Vikings, too high.
You know, it's interesting. Kirk Cousins has had 3 consecutive seasons where he's thrown for at least 4,000 yards and 25 touchdowns. 2 of those seasons, he didn't even make the playoffs. And the 1 year, he showed up in a wild card spot and really didn't show up at all. And so they lost to Green Bay in that game. And so I look at Kirk Cousins. I know he has a stronger arm than Case Keenum. I know he's perceived as being more accurate. Obviously, the combination of him and Trevor Siemian from Denver is an upgrade from the 3-headed monster that was Keenum, Sam Bradford with his questionable knees, and, of course, Teddy Bridgewater, who had that nasty knee injury. But nevertheless, I haven't seen enough from Kirk Cousins in big moments to have that level of faith in him. What's interesting and tricky about him, y'all, is that I'm not questioning his skill set. I know he has the skill. My issue about Kirk Cousins is that I think at times he's been accused. I know I've spoken to players who personally told me they thought he was more about his numbers than about doing what it takes to win. Making sure that if they were to lose, it was not his fault. Being that chance taker, that risk taker, that's not necessarily Kirk Cousins. And as a result, we don't have too many big moments to lean on when it comes to that about him, which is why I got a question mark, because in a division with Aaron Rodgers and Matthew Stafford, Kirk Cousins is going to have to step his game up. I'd like to see if he can.
Also, so much of this stuff is branding. You know, you have a journeyman quarterback and he hasn't been with one franchise the whole time and the expectations weren't sky high, et cetera. And so you think of him one way, and another guy is ascending and he's been with a franchise for a long time. There are high hopes. You think of him another way. Case Keenum, as I mentioned, was, if anything, just outside the MVP talk and had a great playoff win and hung tough with the Super Bowl champs. What did Kirk Cousins do? You know, like when you think about the teams he's been on, have they been appreciably worse? And has he made them well, they're a little worse than the Vikings last year. But has he elevated the team? And then also, if you think Kirk Cousins is that good that he could elevate the Vikings like that, what must you think of Alex Smith?
I think
because in Washington they think they upgraded.
I think it's also getting Dalvin Cook healthy too. I think there were high hopes.
That's
for
where
him.
I was going.
Yeah. So I think that's a huge part of this, not just the quarterback.
Because here's the deal, y'all. Y'all can appreciate this. If you're raving about what you believe Eli Manning is going to do, not just because of the presence of Odell Beckham Jr., but because of the arrival of Saquon Barkley, right? Well, then Dalvin Cook was that dude. Before he goes down in week 4, the brother's averaging 4.8 yards a carry. Dalvin Cook was flat out balling. Yep. If he comes back from that ACL, and it usually takes you a season to do that before you really get back. So I expect more success from him next year as opposed to this year. But if he gives you anything close to what he gave you last year, that's going to help Kirk Cousins.
Yeah,
maybe that's the best argument you could make for Kirk Cousins.
I just need to say this really quick. We have to move on. It's so interesting that Aaron Rodgers' team is number 9. The guy you just said you're in a love triangle with, you'll drink his bathwater, but he's all the way at number 9.
I didn't say I should. I did not. Hold on, no.
How could that
Molly,
ever be?
you misquoted. Molly Wood misquoted me. I would never do something like that because I consider myself a star my damn self. I'm talking about those puppies that play under him.
Okay.
Excuse me. Salute this man, respect him, and obey him. They should, not me.
Number
they
9.
Should.
Number
Molly,
9, baby.
9 overall. Molly, 9 overall. And it's a one-man show. That's impressive.
Oh, so impressive. All right, let's keep it going. If you're looking for single game tickets in the NFL, the Redskins have some available. Back in June, Washington admitted to a mythical waiting list to purchase season tickets, which the team claimed had as many as 200,000 names on it. Then the Redskins sent an email out saying single game tickets are available now. Now, in the past, the team claimed seats became available due to visiting team ticket returns. Stephen A., does this prove that Daniel Snyder is the worst owner in football?
Does not. Even though that's a deplorable thing to do and they should be ashamed of themselves. By the way, I've been to several Redskins games. over the years, and they have an incredible fan base. There's no reason for that to be transpiring. I don't understand that. But I'm not going to call Daniel Snyder the worst owner in sports. Not when you've got Mr. Brown and those boys in Cincinnati who continues to keep Marvin Lewis employed as a head coach despite 15 years on the job and still having failed to win a single playoff game. It is an atrocity. It is ridiculous. It's an insult to the citizens of Cincinnati. It shows them that you've given them the figurative or the proverbial middle finger, that you don't give a damn about how they feel. You don't give a damn about what they want. You clearly don't give a damn about winning. Now, I understand that there are people that are going to look at me and say, damn, he's taking a shot at Marvin Lewis. No, I am not. I am pointing out fact. The fact is that if you are a head football coach in the National Football League and you have 15 years on a job and not one single playoff win to show for it, that is disgraceful. And I'm a black man talking about a black man. And nobody supports the advent and the elevation of coaches getting opportunities more than me. But if this were a white coach, 15 years on a job, you know what? We'd be saying something about him too. We ran Jeff Fisher out of this sport because in 22 years as a head coach, this man missed the playoffs 16 damn times, which was an utter disgrace. And the Rams finally came to their senses and they got rid of him. But in the case of Marvin Lewis, as long as he has his head coach job, I ain't saying he doesn't deserve to be a head coach. I'm saying he doesn't need to be in Cincinnati. Though, as long as he stays the head coach in Cincinnati, they officially have the worst ownership in the sport because they've said we don't care about winning. Every day he's their head coach.
The answer is, Molly, this doesn't prove that Dan Snyder is the worst owner in sports. We can limit it to the NFL. But I guess you can, you know, if you want to expand it to NBA, Major League Baseball, when we say sports, that's really what we're talking about usually in this country. This doesn't prove it, but it's another piece of evidence that demonstrates it. You know, it's not like, aha, now we got him. Look, Donald Sterling's not there anymore. I think Dan Snyder has the crown. You want to say Jim Dolan? But Jim Dolan has not behaved well. Jim Dolan does not have an offensive name to his team, a racist offensive name that he's doubled down on and dug his heels into. So you can say his team has no success and he's arrogant and entitled, but the level of arrogance and entitlement and insensitivity that Dan Snyder shows with respect to the team's name, which I refuse to say, because I wouldn't, if you can't say it to the face of a member of that ethnic group, you shouldn't say it at all, and I certainly wouldn't. I wouldn't go to a Native American reservation in this country and use the name of that team, refer to anyone on that reservation using the name of that team. When you combine that with the fact that as an NFC East fan, Molly, you know, every year, what's the team that's the least interesting in the division? Which one? Which is the team that you have the least trepidation about facing?
The Redskins.
When was the last time they won a Super Bowl? When you take the futility on the field with the level of arrogance concerning the social issue off the field, I give you Dan Snyder having replaced Donald Sterling as the worst owner.
I don't consider it arrogance.
Whoa. You went Donald
arrogance.
Sterling. Yes, but of course, the name, the Washington name issue is much more important than the ticket issue. Guys, we got to leave it there. Still to come, Aaron Rodgers weighing in on the Trump player protest controversy. Finally hearing from a quarterback other than Dak Prescott on this subject. Wait till you hear what he had to say. The guys will dissect it. Also, Seattle, the next city that the NBA should be putting a team in, or is it Sin City, baby?